Testing, testing.
Can hear you.
You can hear us?
Yes.
Thank you. So I've not heard from Commissioner Johnson. Might be a short meeting, yes. Mhm. These were the two that I was told to use to turn on and off. Hello, Commissioner.
Hello, how's everyone doing today?
Good. There's a couple of people in the room and some, actually the majority is online. So I don't know if you want to take it from there.
Yeah, I'm to my phone. My laptop says it's got to do some updates. So, but hopefully it'll bring me on pretty soon. But yes, let's go ahead and get started. I see Commissioner Davis is online with us too. So perhaps you can call out everyone's name in there, Bridget, and then have them introduce themselves, and then we'll go online as well.
Okay, this is Irene, Commissioner.
Oh, you sound like Richard. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Hey,
Richard,
good company to be in.
I don't. Yeah, I can't see for some reason.
I know you're not gonna, you're not seeing in the room quite yet. We're trying to manage that. Somehow you will get that. But I'm gonna go ahead and if those in the room can introduce themselves, Irene Caudillo, Mayor's Office.
Greg Kendall with Wyandotte Economic Development Council.
Daniel Silva, KCK Chamber of Commerce.
Go ahead, JD.
Good afternoon, JD Rios, Mayor's Office.
Dwayne Bright, Fuse Executive Fellow.
Oh, there, okay, now we could see Danny. Can you see us at all? Patrice?
Yes, I can. Nope, I can't see you. I can see those on the Zoom call.
Okay. We'll work on that. Patrice, introduce yourself and then we'll go to Maddie and Commissioner Davis as we get this together.
Okay, this is Patrice Townsend, Director of Utility Services for the Board of Public Utilities.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maddie Dumble. I'm a prevention specialist at the Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault.
Commissioner.
And Commissioner Davis, Unified Government 8th District.
And then there's a Gabriel's, is it Otter Pilot?
AI.
Oh, that's you?
No, that I'm reading it as artificial intelligence assistant.
Oh,
I think it's Gabe Munoz from the Toolbox. I think he
Oh.
uses an AI bot to basically record meetings. We are in a different world, everyone. A different world.
He's here, but not really.
Oh, God, help me today. Commissioner Davis, you are making me feel so ancient right now. I feel like a relic.
Tell me about it.
Oh my gosh. I really
It's a
do.
cool little device. It's cool, but yeah, it's a little weird. It's a little weird.
So I've heard, but my response to it is it robs me of my soul. So anyway, that's another discussion for a different day. Let's go ahead and get started. I don't really have a big agenda today. I think the biggest thing that we're working on right now is working on the Commissioner Davis, tell me, the community benefits ordinance, that's what we're working on. And our goal right now is to try to get a blue sheet in for the upcoming Economic Development and Finance Standing Committee, which I believe is on this coming Monday, I believe. And of course, Commissioner Davis sits on that standing committee. I'll be present as well. Commissioner Davis, do you mind just kind of give us the kind of some of the nuts and bolts of what we're trying to get approved? So we've been kind of codifying this from every meeting on to every meeting, and so it's not a different beast, but it's been further modified to make sure we can get it in and get it passed. So, Commissioner Davis, can you kind of give us nuts and bolts of what of the language and whatnot?
Yeah, and I want everyone to keep in mind that our hope is that this is blue sheeted. It's added to Economic Development and Finance Standing Committee on Monday. That is a public meeting, and during that time, folks will be able to offer a public comment. One of the reasons why we are kind of pushing it for it to be on that meeting is because the end of the year is coming up, and we have, probably on one hand, a number of commission meetings left for the year. And then we return mid-January, and so we're really trying to get this ship going so that we don't miss these key dates and then end up having to kind of redo this effort with the new elected body. I'll just kind of go over kind of some general highlights, and again, it will be offered again during that time on Monday for folks' full revision. So the idea of the ordinance in the concept is that there will be a community benefit advisory board, right? CBAB is what I would call it. And this advisory board would be the appointees of the mayor, right? Would appoint the chair. 10 commissioners would appoint someone, and then that would be the representation for that group. The funding for the Community Benefit Board would come from the issuing of economic development incentives. So, and this is really Greg Kendall's genius here, but the idea was as these projects are getting incentives and we're getting development agreements out, they have to pay what's called an issuance fee. That fee is roughly it's a percentage of the total investment of the project. And so the idea is that we would take about half of that funding, whatever it is, this is new money, and that money would be set aside for this group that is appointed by each elected member to decide on where that money goes. The eligible expenses it really runs the gamut. There's not a limitation. What we have done is just put some ideas to kind of seed for different expenses for the Community Benefit Advisory Board. So affordable housing, childcare is on there. From this group, climate resiliency projects or sustainability projects is on there, as well as the Hollywood Casino Grant, senior minor home repair program, and then the Hollywood Casino Grant process as well. And so the idea again is that this pot of money is there. It's not just thrown into the general fund. these 10 or 11 appointees would hear from the community on what the needs are. They would make recommendations to Economic Development and Finance Standing Committee, and then the rest would just follow that process for getting approved. And so I don't know if Greg wants to offer any other insight on kind of what we potentially could be looking at. One of the examples Mr. Kendall threw out was the Woodside project and how much money we would be talking about just for one project.
Thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, this is Greg. So on the Woodside project, I think an estimate of the industrial revenue bond fees, origination fees, something like $110,000, with half of that would then go to this fund and the other half would go to the general fund. And so if you do a number of these projects, hopefully every month is the goal. We've got a number of apartment projects, for instance, then, it isn't a panacea. It's not going to solve for every problem, social challenge that we have, but it is at least a revenue stream. And as JD and I were just talking, right now, we really don't know where those fees go to at all. And so in some ways, it's at least an acknowledgement that half the fees that are generated will now have at least some direction and some oversight and some input from this task force who represents the public.
And Greg, you might also kind of highlight the fact that this is not really a modification from what was already occurring. It is basically taking the model that's already in place, as I understand it. You can correct me if I'm wrong, and then splitting some of that up for new projects as they come in. Did I get that correct?
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. It's funds that were already being generated. We just didn't have a dedicated way of utilizing it. I think we've kind of played around with the idea that, at least in the old days, you had United Way where you had your donor designated fund. And in some ways, this is operating as a donor designated fund where we're saying this is how we'd like to use half the money that's being written as a check from these development projects. It doesn't disrupt the project. It doesn't disrupt the flow of the project. It doesn't disrupt non-disclosure agreements. It honestly doesn't negatively impact anything that I can see thus far. It allows all projects to move forward just as they always have, with the commissioners having their perspective on the project. And then once the project goes through ED&F, and we know the project may or may not happen, which usually once it gets through ED&F, then it usually has a decent chance of passing. Then it begins to turn into something the task force can review for the funding. So in that respect, it adds a process on the back end, but doesn't slow any of the other processes down, which I think is what the mayor had asked for as well. And it doesn't increase the cost of doing business in the county either, which was another requirement that I think the mayor had put out there. And so it solves for both of those.
Okay, great. That's exactly the way I understood it and understand it. From the developer standpoint, it's nothing different. It doesn't slow, like you said, doesn't cost any more to do business in Wyandotte County. So I appreciate you for helping us kind of walk through those minds there that could blow this thing up. So with that, I'd entertain any comments or questions from anyone else that's on this call to kind of get your thoughts. And Irene, if you can see hands or whatever, you can kind of be the coordinator. But any thoughts or concerns before we take this to ED&F next Monday, this coming Monday?
I don't see anyone. Oh, there we go. Aaron.
Hi, this is Erin Stryko with Rosedale Development Association. So I think I shared this last time, but my concern about this version is it doesn't have much to do with the particular communities where these projects are happening. I think it's really missing a component of involving the community and directing where that money goes, and of being able to be specific about both the positive and negative impacts of projects on the communities where they're located. So I don't think it's a bad thing the way it is now. I just don't think it is what I at least understood to be a community benefit ordinance at the beginning of this process. Yeah, I also I had hoped that this would also help us be a little bit more strategic about how we use our incentives to move the development process along. And this doesn't in any way interact with that, which I absolutely see how that's a benefit for the developers and it makes things smoother and easier. But this as written just doesn't change very much. You're just kind of taking a little bit of money that used to go into the or not a little bit of money. You're taking some money that used to go into the general fund and putting a process for spending it. So I don't, yeah, I see that it's very late in the process and that this is going in a very different direction than I had hoped to see it, but I just wanted to make that point one more time before it goes to standing committee.
Thank you, Aaron. I think Commissioner Davis might agree. He's still on. The community aspect would be, I really think, coming from those key persons that the mayor and the commissioners would appoint, not much different than what we do with the Parks Board and other boards that we have, so that you do have the voice of the community. I'm not going to make any assumptions to suggest that, for instance, if a project is going on, say, for instance, in Rosedale, it would be likely, and I'm not going to suggest that that would be the case in every situation, that we would look at that and look at areas in Rosedale that might need to be further developed. But I think the real emphasis is leveraging what might be going on in some of our larger markets, of which Rosedale is a part of, but also the Speedway. Fairfax would be another one, to leverage projects to be able to do some things in areas that have been disadvantaged. So that's my thoughts with regards to your point, and your point is very well taken. Again, we just need to get something across the table that we can get approved. It can be modified. It is a living organism at a later time and date. So that's at least my response and conversation with you with regard to that. Anybody else, or
Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I know that's really good feedback, and Mr. Reich, I hear everything that you're saying. One of the things that we tried to do with this ordinance is not try and do more than what was kind of our task. There are other issues, and I think other conversations regarding how we use incentives that need to be had, from gauging the politics, engaging the current dynamic and the appetite. It just didn't seem like there would be much to going in and trying to amend our incentives policy, because that is literally a separate ordinance. It's a separate resolution, and it's something that this board for community benefits could look at and see, how do we dish out IRBs? How do we dish out, some of these other incentives and property tax abatements? To Commissioner Johnson's point, we have put in a mandated two-year reevaluation of the policy. That way, this isn't just happening in perpetuity without any analysis. We also put in a mandated 60-day period for kind of public comment or public hearing by the Community Benefit Advisory Board. And so they wouldn't just kind of take the money and go and huddle. They would have to hear first from the community to see what's going on. The tough part about all this is that every area has a different take on how community benefits should be distributed. If we did it by area specifically, we just said if the projects happen in your area, the worry was that most of Wyandotte County would not benefit from this, because most of those economic development projects are happening out west. And so we're trying to find that balance between not excluding anyone. You shouldn't be penalized because you live out west. I don't believe that's fair. Right. You should be allowed to have a voice at the table, and you will have they'll have a representative. But we also want to be mindful of the areas that aren't getting hardly any economic development projects at all. and probably won't be getting anything major in the coming years, just given the challenges that are currently facing those particular areas. And so this is not a perfect document. It is living and breathing. I think these first 2 years will be a test run of what works and what does not. We'll learn from it, and then the hope is that we'll get better.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anyone else have any comments, questions?
Anybody?
Okay. Well, seeing none, this is the right now the thing that we're most focused on. It will go to this coming Monday's ED&F for discussion, and I assume that there will be some lively discussion about this during that time. If it does get beyond the ED&F standing committee, then it goes to the next. Well, I don't know if it goes to the next commission meeting. I don't have the calendar in front of me. Irene, do you kind of know, or Commissioner, when the next commission meeting that it would, arguing that it approves, gets approved in ED&F, when would be the next full commission meeting?
Yeah, it's Commissioner Davis. So it really depends. If, as a committee, it's our kind of prerogative to make that recommendation, right, to the mayor's office. So we could fast track it from the meeting on the 13th to the 16th, and that would at the very least give ample time. Again, knowing that we don't have as many meetings left to discuss something this innovative. Normally, we for ED&F, the items that we have passed, if we haven't fast tracked them, we send those items to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, or the full commission meeting in which we engage planning and zoning items. And that meeting, I believe, is on the 30th. And so those are kind of our options. I think after that, Commissioner, you will have been long gone. And so, yeah, we're going to have to be mindful of just of the timing of all of this. But that's kind of where the options that we have.
Yeah, Commissioner, I think that's what we were working with the mayor on,
Okay.
was the blue sheet for the commission, for the standing and commission.
Yeah, so this in full transparency, assuming that this gets approved in ED&F standing committee, we will push to have it fast tracked to next Thursday's full commission meeting. I don't know the date on that. Maybe like the 21st, 20th, 21st.
No, next the 16th.
Okay. I'm talking about the full commission meeting.
For the full commission.
It will be the 16th.
Yeah, it'll be that same week.
It'll be the same week. That's what I think we're looking at. If all goes well here, and with your response, Commissioner Davis, I think that's what we were kind of looking at.
Yeah, and that gives kind of, options if we do fast track, and if that is the direction that the committee wants to go, the full commission would be able to hear this item, and the public would be able to comment on this item. That meeting on Monday, the meeting on the 16th, and then for whatever reason, if we need one more meeting, we would also have November 30th. So this is by no means like we're not done. It's not all right, everyone, let's go home. It's a sealed deal. We're just trying to put this in play so that we can use up these last 3 commission meetings to the best of our ability. That's the hope.
And I think that with Mr. Rios and Ms. Cadillo have already talked to the mayor. Is there any comments back that we need to be mindful of from the mayor's office with regard to this item?
No.
Okay. So I assume that he's going to be on board. I'm assuming that Mr. Kendall will be there to help us along with that as well. And so, we're really going to try to get this. It's important to get it passed. And Commissioner Davis has fully outlined the real ideology behind this. We got to get something passed because right now it's not going to be something that everybody's going to buy in on. But I think as time goes, we'll be able to refine it and improve it for the entire community. So I'm excited about this. I really am excited about this. But I really want to thank Commissioner Davis. He really has done the yeoman's work, working with legal, with Mr. Kendall and others to help, codify the language. That's very important. So again, Commissioner, hats off to you, and also to the mayor's representatives as well. I don't have anything else for this meeting. Is there anything else we need to discuss with regard to this or future items?
Commissioner Johnson and Davis, in an earlier discussion that we had, regarding this, one of the largest benefits that we had discussed was labor, and the fact that the UG does not have WBE, MBE, and DBE goals or requirements, that it was allowed to sunset in 2019. And so that was one of the things that we had discussed, that the community had brought up as well, because there's no commitment for any developer, anyone, to hire from Wyandotte County.
Well, within that comment, local businesses and MWBE businesses.
Yes.
Because I can't do business in Wyandotte County unless it's in my industrial realm as a contractor. Like, I cannot sit down and get business. And I've sat down with people at the UG and it all sounds good. And here we are 4 years later and I can't get it on any on-call list or anything.
Right. So that's what we're saying is that, that there are incentives that are coming from the UG, but in terms of labor, when we know that there's the majority of labor that is done, in Wyandotte County or by individuals that don't live in Wyandotte County. And so we were saying that, we felt that the incentives that we're giving, it should also be, an attraction, to hire from Wyandotte County, that should be a focus.
But also we're getting pushback on the Missouri side with the affirmative action ruling from the Supreme Court on the college admissions. So that's also going to be a sticky point as well. And we have a disparity study to back that.
And if I can layer onto that, I know what you're saying, Dwayne, but I think that leadership should start with the unified government in itself. And, the unified government builds many, many things every year and does not look at any LMW goals for its own purchases or its own construction projects. And it's frankly, it's frustrating to us that we have to push on every development project that ever comes into the county to make sure that they hire locally and that we make sure we get folks like CJ Industries and others on the list. That's great. I don't mind it. But gosh, it's amazing how many millions of dollars the unified government spends every year and doesn't commit to an LMW policy of its own. It does sort of a do as I say, but not as I do. And so that to me is frustrating. I mean, I look at just how much we spend on buying any kind of paper products or any other product, but even on a construction projects, unified government does not commit itself to any LMW goals that I'm aware of.
I thought that Sharon Reed was working on that, making sure we were getting reestablished with that. Am I wrong? Has anybody besides me heard that from Sharon? I thought that's what I heard from her.
No, you are correct, sir.
Sharon is on commission.
Oh, hey, Sharon, there you are. Please.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I do want to interject just a little bit here. And I want to just say, from what I've heard, you are correct that the goals that we had did sunset, and I believe it was 2018, end of 2018, early 2019. They did sunset, but we were still applying those goals to public works projects. Now, they were voluntarily, and I would say that we only had 2 projects at that time that did not meet the goals. So we were still setting them. And currently now we are working on going out for a disparity study. I'm looking to see if we can put out an RFQ for qualifications for a consultant so that can assist me with this, so to make sure that we're doing it correctly. Also working on a local certification. We'll be working on that with the city of Kansas City, Missouri. So I do apologize. I mean, there are some things that's kind of going on in the background. Just haven't been to the forefront to voice some of those things that are going on. But I was just trying to make sure that I had a full picture, something that had come together to develop, to let you know that we were making progress. And we are. And so we are listening, to the contractors and the small businesses here, or the entrepreneurs here in Wyandotte County. And so we're working in the direction in order to try to get this momentum going, to let them know that, hey, we're listening to you. Also looking at maybe we can do something for the small local businesses, that we can just, I'm not going to call it a set aside, but you can build in a threshold for some small local businesses that they can just bid on themselves. Currently, when we go out for bids and RFP, we are committed to ensuring that there's a local minority and women-owned businesses that have the opportunity to submit on those bids or proposals. So there are some things that's going on in the background, in order to make sure that we're meeting some of those needs. We're also looking to implement software that will help us track the momentum that we're having, so that we can show that we're meeting some of those needs, to show the spend that's going in those directions of the small local minority and women-owned businesses. So there are a lot of things that's kind of going on in the background. We just haven't made enough strides for me to present in front of the commissioners to say, hey, this is what's come together, everything except for .biz. And we're also building on that momentum as well.
Hey, Sharon, this is Greg Kendall again. You and I are largely on the same page 90% of the time. I just want to point out for the commissioners that the last time that it was approved to build new fire stations, and the last two, the CSI facility as well as the new public works facility, those were done by Heron Laughlin Construction, not in Wyandotte County. The general contractor for the CSI and the public works facility, those are done by Newkirk Novak, not in Wyandotte County. And so they may be meeting some LNW goals, but all of the general contractors that I'm aware of thus far for all public works and UG fire department projects are not Wyandotte County companies. If they're meeting LNW goals, I wish that was made more public.
And when Newkirk came in, and they did set up headquarters here in Wyandotte County at that time.
But they have since moved to Lenexa.
They have since moved. And so believe me, as we're working through the solicitation and to make sure that we are working towards to ensure that the awards are going to construction companies, things of that nature, that reside here in Wyandotte County, not just for the application of them getting and being awarded, but also that they are making this home, and that they have a commitment in hiring local minority and women-owned businesses too. But that's also going to come in working with the disparity study and how we build a policy after that.
Well, and I'd like to elaborate just a little more. Like, I was not pointing my comment at you at all, Sharon. Like, I sat down with departments inside the unified government and have tried to bring other GCs to the table, and we get nowhere. And we were not looking for a contract. We were not looking for any sort of handout by any means, but just to help get conversations started. Just even within the fire department, I had a Turner Construction wanted to sit down and help make a master plan, and they build a lot of fire stations, and we build them with them, and they said, we know we'll have to bid it, but there's some grants out there we can help you with, and that's been over 2 years.
Well, Mindy, let's you and I have a conversation, and let's see how we can start those meetings to where we can have do the introductions, so that we can build that bridge. Let procurement help you. That's what I'm here for. And then we can document those meetings and making sure that we can build up a process flow that once they come in and we have that conversation, where do we start from there to ensure at least they get the opportunity to make that pitch, and not only that, but an opportunity to bid on the submittal of the construction projects that are going on here. Yeah. Hopefully by then that we can be in a place to where we can get the disparity study done, and hopefully it'll come back and it'll give us the numbers to where we can build on that and have a process and a plan in place.
That'd be great.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson, Mr. Barber has been
Yes,
patiently
patiently.
waiting.
Yes, yes. Go ahead, Mr. Barber.
All right. First of all, I appreciate hearing what Ms. Reed had to say. That's somewhat encouraging, but I want to get confirmation or clarification on what I'm hearing is that there is no actual legal requirement in Wyandotte County for opportunities for minority businesses. And that what Ms. Reed has been working on is trying to cajole and encourage these general contractors to hire within Wyandotte County. So I guess that's the first question. Am I correct on that?
Yes and no. So although, let me reiterate, although that the ordinance has sunset, we have been quite successful in still having goals on public works projects, 250,000 and over. And that's where the goals were always aligned with the ordinance, with the disparity study that was done back in 07, 09. There were just goals for public works projects, not for goods, not for professional services and not for goods, only for construction. There are goals on economic development projects currently, and procurement does follow those goals, and we follow the to ensure that they're being made. And we also make sure that the Davis Bacon part of any projects that have federal dollars, we follow that as well.
Okay, okay. And again, I'm encouraged to hear that. You know, I've worked both inside government and also outside in private industry as a business owner myself. And it's been my experience that you can make some progress in working with private businesses, but there's nothing like having a big stick. And if possible, I'd like to see us explore more about getting some actual requirements in ordinances. I think gathering more data, as you said that you're doing, is great, and I know that's oftentimes very necessary in moving forward from the government side of things. However, I think this is a pretty important topic. One of the biggest failings in Wyandotte County is economic opportunity. And the more that we can support local businesses, the better. And that's something I'd like to see us really set as a high priority.
Sharon, can you kind of give us two things? Can you give us a sense of a timeline that you're working on, an estimated timeline? And then secondly, can you really highlight the importance and the role that the disparity study plays in the establishment of those goals?
The timeline I can try to give you actually probably was a couple of months ago, at least trying to get the consultant on board. We were looking to partner with the city of Kansas City, Missouri, you know, with their disparity study. And then when they had the changes in their leadership and things of that nature, it just kind of fell through. So we're still trying to pick up and see, you know, we can garner some of that support or people having partners with this, maybe like the school board or the BPU to come in and if they have an interest in participating as well. So we're kind of starting from the scratch again. If we're going to do this as a standalone or have partners, then that's where the consultant comes in to help give us guidance on where the information that we need, the documentation, and how we're going to pursue this and the type of information and data that needs to be there to support this initiative. I think that we have to make sure that we're strategic and that we're aligned about this, and to make sure that we're following all of the processes that need to be done to ensure that we're getting the information back that's going to provide us directions on what's going to give us the policy in order for us to have the teeth to move forward if we can set those goals and give us the numbers. Also with the initiative to try to do this on, professional services and goods as well, and not just construction. Also looking at it's a race neutral program, and that race neutral program is once again where you can go in and you can look at where your spend is, and you can designate a certain threshold for local minority or women-owned businesses as well. And that's not going to be segmented based on a goal. That's going to be based on a threshold, and having the data to say, okay, where are my expenses and where can I run the numbers to see where we have the trades or the companies that can say, if it's furniture or office, and we can say that we can have 4 or 5 different companies here, and we can say maybe bids can go out that's $100,000 just to them, and then let them bid on that. That those race neutral programs cannot be contested, cannot go to court. You cannot be sued on a race neutral program.
But you can't. It doesn't sound like we have any estimated or firm timelines on that. I think it's something that if you need some help in terms of leaning in on this, probably some persons in this room would be very interested in that. I certainly have been up to this point. And the second part was, is the disparity study something that is for sure thing, or is that also kind of up in the air?
No, that's a for sure thing. I do have the funding for that.
Okay, and what's the timeline on that?
Once I can get the consultant in to help give me direction. So I'm looking to put the specs together. That's what I've been working on, the specs for the consultant. Hopefully I can get it out before December.
Okay, so we have to hire a consultant.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a direction that I would definitely like to have someone assist me in.
Okay, well, Open, I'm sure you probably have some help right here in the persons that are on this Zoom call. So please don't hesitate to reach out to anyone, because we probably need to move this out of the darkness into the light, so that we can, get this reenacted in the commission. It's vitally necessary. I think that's something, Commissioner Davis, it might crop up in the ED&F standing committee as well. I'm not sure, but we'll see.
Yeah, and if I can add, perhaps this is because again, there was no version that was presented to us that said use the community benefit ordinance to kind of mandate specific things out of developers beyond cost. That just wasn't something that was at the very least relate to me or relate to any of the folks that we were working with. And so I think what maybe for future work for this task force or a different iteration of this task force is looking at things like incentives and looking at some of those mandates. The study is going to be huge, and we want to make sure that that study is done so that we have justifications for whatever threshold we set, and we're able to continue to mandate that. I think it's welcome news that developers have opted in even when that hasn't been on the books. I will say for the current ordinance, we left it very, very broad, but some of the funding, or one of the categories for funding in the ordinance, is workforce initiatives. That could be grants, that could be training, that could be a myriad of items that's there. We left it very broad on purpose. And so it is slightly addressed. Some of the things that I've heard, I think are probably live in another document on incentives, and then also our bureaucracy. I mean, just what our staff has the capacity to do, given all of the rest of their responsibilities. And I think that's kind of what we're hearing from you, Sharon, is out of all the other things, this is the other thing. And so I don't say that to belittle what everybody else is saying, just saying that to be mindful of the 40 hours a week folks have to give.
I
Yeah.
will agree that this is a priority, and we are working on it, but we also that making sure that we are approaching it to have the documentation in place in case we are challenged, that we are doing this methodically.
Yeah, which I can appreciate. Okay, any more comments or questions? Irene, do you see anybody out there?
Nobody online or no one in the room?
Okay. Well, thank you to everybody that took time out to be in this session. Feel free, please log in for the ED&F Standing Committee meeting this coming Monday, and also the full commission meeting on next Thursday, the 16th. With that, I appreciate your time, and we'll bid you farewell. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Go vote if you haven't already.
That's right.